Subscribe the channel for latest updates. Press the bell icon. Get ready for the dictation. At the count of 3, 2, 1, start. In defense, the arguments for the state were: a constitutional amendment is made in exercise of the sovereign power and not legislative power of the parliament. Therefore, it partakes the quality and character of the constitution itself, becoming an integral part of it. The provisions of Article 368 are clear and unequivocal, with there being no scope for invoking implied limitations on that power. Also, this limitation on the doctrine of implied power had been expressly rejected by the American courts. The object of the amending clause in a flexible constitution was to enable the parliament to amend the constitution in order to express the will of the people according to the changing course of events, and if amending power was restricted by implied limitations, the constitution itself might be destroyed by revolution. Therefore, the amending procedure was a safety valve and an alternative for a violent change by revolution. There were no basic and non-basic features of the constitution. Everything in the constitution was basic and could be amended in pursuance of future growth and progress of the country. Debates in the Constituent Assembly could not be relied upon for construing Article 368, and even if they could be, there was nothing in the debates to prove positively that fundamental rights were excluded from the purview of amendment. Since amendments were made out of political necessity, they involved questions such as how to exercise power, how to make the lot of the citizens better, and the like, and therefore, not being judicial questions, they were outside the court's jurisdiction. The language of Article 368 was clear, categorical, and imperative, while the language of Article 13(2) admitted qualifications or limitations, and therefore the court must construe the latter in a manner that it could not control Article 368. In order to enforce the directive principles, the Constitution had been amended from time to time, and the great fabric of the Indian Union had been built since 1950 on the basis that the Constitution could be amended, and therefore any reversal of the previous decisions would introduce economic chaos in the country, and therefore the burden on the petitioners was very heavy to establish that the fundamental rights could not be amended under Article 368. Presided over by Chief Justice Subba Rao, this 11-judge bench by 6-5 majority held that the fundamental rights were not amenable to the amending power under Article 368. The court held that Article 368, which contained provisions relating to the amending of the Constitution, merely laid down the amending procedure. It did not confer upon the Parliament the power to amend the Constitution. The amending power or the constituent power of Parliament arose from other provisions contained in the Constitution, that is Articles 245, 246 and 248, which gave it to power to make laws, that is plenary legislative power only. Thus, the apex court held that the amending power and legislative powers of Parliament were essentially the same. Therefore, any amendment of the Constitution was deemed to be law as understood in Article 13(2), and consequently was to be struck down in violative of fundamental rights. The judgment invoked the concept of implied limitations on Parliament's power to amend the Constitution. the court held that the Constitution gave a place of permanence to the fundamental freedoms of the citizen. In giving the Constitution to themselves, the people had reserved the fundamental rights for themselves. Another aspect of the judgment is that it introduces in India the doctrine of prospective overruling, wherein in order not to disturb the hitherto concluded transactions and under previously invalid laws, all invalidations would be operative from future. Therefore, the court declared that henceforth all laws violative of fundamental rights would be void ab initio.